Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism, Jamaica.
Hey, well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. We're here on the Caribbean Tourism Stand, the Jamaica stand here at Arabian Travel Market. How's the show going for you this year?
Oh, very busy, as you can see, and I think we're lucky. Our location is right in your face as you enter this Jamaica. But I think there is an interesting collaboration that is growing between the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas and the Caribbean in particular. And we're seeing it more not only because technology is allowing for easier connectivity and a level of seamlessness moving through borders, but we're seeing it because people are more excited about the Caribbean, its history, and the fact that the Caribbean represents an amalgam of all these ethnic strains and cultural strains in far places like Africa and the Middle East and Asia.
Is that down to the work you're doing with the CTO, with the Jamaica Tourist Board, to get that message out to these new markets?
Absolutely. And we recognize that the demographics, global demographics have been changing, as are the affordability arrangements across the globe. New emerging markets, the new economies of the world that are gaining momentum are no longer in the West. Asia is, for example, the fastest growing outbound destination for tourism today. Last year they grew by 9%. Africa grew by 8% last year as an outbound destination. And of course the Americas, which includes South America, 8% as well. Europe, interestingly, is at 4%. And the weakest area, of course, is the Middle East. And the reason for the Middle East being the weakest area is well known. It's about the challenges of safety and security. A challenge which we believe that we in the Western world need to take note of, one, and to begin to respond to it. And tourism as an international mechanism for global peace has a tremendous role to play, I think, in that regard. Because we are the industry that brings people together, that creates for harmony, that we call ourselves the happy industry. We are about making people happy to be with people, and therefore we would be against war. We would be against extremist behavior. So I think that tourism has a tremendous role to play, and the Middle East can do well to look to tourism for that kind of support.
You yourself are in quite high demand. I believe you jet off to Bangkok tomorrow for the WTTC conference there as well. What will your message be to the private sector and to that body?
Yes, I think that the WTTC is having a series of very important discussions on sustainability and looking at the broader perspective, not now just about the environment, but how do you create the jobs and the inclusive growth that will enable the harmonization of tourism values and people, because tourism is really about people, and to people are about communities. So how does tourism make communities better, and how does tourism enable the enrichment of people within communities? So those discussions are going to be useful, because the traditional feeling is that the big industrialist or the big hotelier or the big investor is only interested in the return on his investment, and he will do it at the expense of the communities. This conference is seeking to turn that on its head. It's trying to indicate that there is social responsibility and that there are ethical tourism elements that have to be brought into the picture. So I'm excited about the Bangkok engagement, and I look forward to being able to contribute to the discussion and the dialogue.
This is the year of sustainable tourism as well, the UNWTO, and that's a part of the agenda that you're very up to date with as well.
Yes, in fact, we are more interested now in creating a roadmap for sustainability. How do we create a compendium of best practices? How do we bring private sector and public sector together? How do we bring resources to ideas for sustainability? And so a conference is going to be held in Jamaica November 27 to 29, which is going to speak to just that. It will be historic in the sense that it's the first time that the private sector and the public sector will meet together to discuss sustainability in the frame of resource and resource allocation. Something which we never did, because it is interesting that 80% of global tourism is for small and medium enterprises. But the allocation of resources to the small and medium enterprises in tourism represents just about 1.5% of the total funding that is provided by donor countries. So here's an opportunity for us to scale up that whole arrangement and to look at how can we reverse that to enable more growth and development and inclusiveness in the economic development of people and communities. So I invite the world to come to this conference. We want all the ministers of tourism across the world to be there. We also want all the companies, the big hotels, the cruise lines, right? The NGOs, the MDBs as we call them, right? And all these development funding agencies to come and let us celebrate on an element that can very well redefine global relations.
Okay, it's certainly a hot button issue, so we'll meet you in Jamaica next
So
year.
I'll see you in Jamaica, November 27 to 29.
See you then. Thank you for talking to us.